The belief in the existence of a substance called matter that exists outside of and independent of consciousness is simply a religion. The religion of materialism from which our culture is suffering. The inevitable consequences of this religion are suffering on the inside and conflict on the outside. Not only have scientists been looking for this stuff for 2,500 years, but politicians have also been trying to bring peace and fulfillment to the communities and nations that they were elected to govern. They have still not managed to do so. And they will never manage to do so until they find the source of peace and fulfillment within themselves. In order to find the source of peace and fulfillment within themselves, it is necessary to investigate the nature of their own mind. No amount of discussing or arguing about policies will make any difference to the level of peace and fulfillment in society on a long term. Has anyone here not ever had an argument with a loved one or an intimate companion? And noticed that the argument eclipsed, at least to a degree, and for a certain length of time, the love that you shared. We've all been there. All the argument consists of is a series of thoughts. It is this series of thoughts that eclipses the love that the two people share. In other words, it eclipses the experience of their shared being. Love is the experience of our shared being. The consciousness that is the shared element of each of our finite minds. When our shared being is eclipsed by our thoughts, the argument in this case. Love seems to be veiled, and even at times turns into hatred. But hatred is not the absence of love, it is simply the veiling of love. The reason I'm saying this is because I am aware that we are approaching a critical time in American history. Do you realize the implication of what I'm saying? In between are two thoughts. In between two thoughts, what is there that separates us from someone else? In between two thoughts, we stand as one with the other. We stand in love with the other. It is only when our shared being is eclipsed by the content of our thoughts that it seems to be missing, that love seems to be missing, and conflict and at times even hatred ensues. What I am trying to imply is that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are in love with each other, but they don't know. But they don't yet know it. That was not supposed to be a joke. I mean it literally. Can you imagine at a presidential debate, the retreat I just finished on the East Coast, the first night of the retreat took place on the evening of the second debate. And I was under strict orders from the attendees to make sure that my opening meditation was finished by 5 to 9. So we all adjourned and watched the debate. And it occurred to me that all that separated Trump and Clinton, all that made them feel separate from one another, all that made them feel hatred for one another, were the thoughts in their mind. Where was that hatred in between two thoughts? It was non-existent. In between two thoughts, they stood as one in love. Can you imagine the impact that it would have had if one of them, just for a moment, had noticed that in between two thoughts there was nothing to separate them one from the other? Can you imagine the impact if one of them not just noticed that, but felt the implication of that recognition, felt at that moment that he or she stood one with the other? And can you imagine if one of them had had the courage and the humility to feel that and to allow that feeling understanding to guide and dictate the subsequent conversation? when one shakes hands at the beginning and end of a debate. In that moment, one is afforded the possibility of feeling and expressing your shared being. This symbol, this beautiful symbol of shaking hands, is a moment between two thoughts where the two opponents stand as one in love. That is all it takes. So, when I look back